Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to another 5D cup of tea. And I am, yeah, cheers. It's Jacqueline Middleton here, Jacqueline Middleton Coaching YouTube channel. And I am so very happy and honored to have Christina with me again today from ZenithGlow Astrology. How are you doing, Christina?
I'm doing very well, thank you. And how are you doing, Jacqueline?
Good. Yeah, hanging in there with these big energies, man, oh man. Nothing like being in the sandwich of two eclipses, right? Oh my goodness, big energies.
The eclipse sandwich.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's it is some big energies, boy. And like you were saying, in your awesome recent video on this upcoming March 3rd eclipse, the full moon lunar eclipse. And if you haven't checked that out, go check out Zenith Glow Astrology on YouTube. Christina is, sorry, I'm going to backtrack here, give a little intro for anybody that's new watching us today. Christina is a really, really gifted astrologer. She's a depth astrologer who focuses on evolutionary astrology. And she has an amazing amount of wisdom that she ties in all about alchemy and a lot of spiritual wisdom. And boy, if you want to have a personal astrology reading done, and it's such a good time to do that now as we move through these big, big transformative energies. It's so helpful to have an astrology reading done. And I can tell you, I've been lucky enough to have an astrology reading done by Christina, and she is really, really gifted. You'll be glad you did. So head on over to Zenith Glow Astrology and yeah, check out Christina's recent video, like I say, on this upcoming March 3rd lunar eclipse. It's just packed full of information that'll help you to move through these big energies, help you to know what the focus is. And we're going to talk a little more about that today. So yeah, an official welcome back to Christina. And yeah, this portal sandwich that we're in between the two eclipses. I remember you saying, yeah, I remember you saying that the first eclipse of this eclipse season, because we have eclipses every 6 months. So the first eclipse we just came through on February 17th, the annular solar eclipse that coincided with the first day of the fire horse. Yeah, not that there's big energies or anything, but
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But I remember you saying in your recent video how that eclipse was like a door opening, and then the second eclipse is usually somewhat of a closing door. And maybe you could tell us a little bit more about what kind of energies we're swimming in right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Before I do that, though, I also wanted to just throw it back to you as well and say that, you are a wonderful spiritual coach, and you've mentioned, offering this service of being a listening ear for people. And I just, I haven't had a chance to mention this, or I had a chance, but I lost the chance because I was like focused on other things when we recorded our other videos.
Oh,
But I
good.
wanted to mention that I have actually utilized Jacqueline's beautiful talents and what she offers myself. And I think that if anybody is looking for that kind of support, she's a wonderful person to go to for that, because it's so important and something we might kind of overlook a lot of the time, when we're on the spiritual journey. I always get this attitude of like, I can do it myself. I can do it myself. And I'm always like trying to take care of things myself. But it's a really lonely journey, and it can be really difficult at times, kind of navigating the energies and some of the bizarre things that we experience when we're going through the ascension process. And I think a lot of people know that it's really helpful to talk to a counselor just in a general sense. But when you're on like this higher dimensional journey, it's kind of hard to talk to like a normal 3D counselor if you're things go on in your life that you feel like you have to censor yourself, or you have to like package it in a way that that person's going to understand, you know, it kind of, you basically feel like you can't talk to anyone about it. And so yeah, what you offer, Jacqueline, is so beautiful because you have that background in counseling. You are so skilled at just listening, and you have a wealth of wisdom that you share as well. So I just have to say that I've you know, obviously you know this, but you know, I've chatted with you before when I needed a listening ear, and it's incredibly helpful. So if anybody is
Thank
looking for
you.
that kind of thing, Jacqueline's a wonderful resource for that. So
Thank
okay.
you.
I wanted to
Thank
say
you.
that.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. I appreciate that so much. Thanks, Christina.
Uh,
It's, I, it's funny because before I went into, because I did used to work as a psychotherapist quite a lot of years ago, but I guess I was always kind of the person that other friends came to bend an ear, and and you know, moving out of traditional counseling and into spiritual life coaching that I do now, it's like you just described it. It gives me more of the freedom. I don't have to be in the box, and gives me the freedom to be able to, yeah, create that sacred space for people to be able to talk and just know that they're really deeply held and listened to, with an open heart. And that's, I absolutely love doing that. So thank you for mentioning it. That's awesome.
thank you.
And you know,
Yeah.
I love you. You just reminded me because you were saying how, you know, sometimes it can be a lonely path when we're on this spiritual awakening path and doing the inner work and so on. And I think that's kind of, it's kind of part of what makes us spiritual warriors. It's kind of like built into being a spiritual warrior, light worker, starseed, whatever, what they all mean the same thing really, is I kind of think, but you know, just an awakened person. And we kind of tend to put that pressure on ourselves, like you said, okay, I got to figure it out. I got to do it by myself. Otherwise, I'm not a spiritual master, you know, and
Yeah.
not that we're really gonna, you know, we're not aiming for anything like that. I mean, sure, mastery is lovely to reach for, and we can, I think we can achieve it in certain areas of life. But just like you say, it's easy to put the pressure on ourselves and think, oh, I got to figure it out on my own. But man, there's nothing
Mhm.
like just being really, really listened to and heard. That can be, yeah, really healing. So, but what you said that reminded me was, oh yeah, just the kind of perfectionism, I think that I was just describing,
Mm.
that we sometimes get caught up in, of, yeah, I got to figure it out on my own, got to do it on my own, got to know this, got to know that, got to have it all. That's kind of some of the energies of what we're moving through with this eclipse, isn't it? We're it's part of those energies. I remember you saying in your beautiful recent lunar eclipse video that that it's challenging us to let go of the, I think the Virgo energy, let go of those perfectionistic kind of approaches and surrender and go with the flow. So I'm going to say, once again, if we were doing our Sesame Street version of today's show, I think some of our words, the word of the days, are going to be surrender and flow and alignment. That's always there. So, having
Yeah.
said that, I'll let you describe some more of what those energies are that we're moving through, those Virgo energies. And brought to you by the
Yeah.
number one again, because we're in a number one numerological year. So this version of the
Yeah.
show is brought to you by the number one.
Definitely. Although I might argue that we're kind of also in the energy of two right now, because not only because it's February, but we had the 222 portal a few days ago. And so much of what's going on right now with the planets, with the eclipses, everything, it all has to do with alignment. It's like all of these things that are happening right now are helping to align us. Like we just moved into this fire horse energy, right? So we're starting something brand new, but it's like, you know, forgive the analogy I'm about to use, but it's like if you're going to go target shooting or something, like you're going to line up your shot before before you pull the trigger, or if you're doing like a slingshot or whatever,
Yeah.
if you're aiming at something, if you're throwing darts, you're going to line up your shot before you really release it. And so, and this fire horse energy is very fast moving, right? It's very forward momentum kind of energy. So it's like we want to make sure that we get our trajectory really dialed in before we push forward. And so that's some of what this energy is about with the eclipses. And you're right, with all eclipses, we always have at least a solar and a lunar. And sometimes we can have more than one eclipse in a single season. And we can also have more than two eclipse seasons in a single year. But typically we have two seasons per year, and typically you get a solar and a lunar per season. And it's like that energy, yeah, a door opening and a door closing, because those are the energies of death and rebirth, right? We always have endings and beginnings. They're the, two sides of the same coin. So that is very much what's going on. We have a new chapter that has started with the year of the fire horse, the annular solar eclipse in Aquarius, but we also have things that we need to close the chapter, right? Close the book on, that we're ready to be done with. And so it's kind of like finalizing things, because we did all this work through the year of the wood snake. It's not like, oh my God, are you telling me we're still not done? I mean, first of all, you're never really done. But, that energy is definitely concluded, but it's like we need to tie up the loose ends to kind of like really wrap things up and make sure that they are set and done, because again, that's part of dialing in our trajectory as we move forward. So, yeah, absolutely alignment. But yes, I would definitely say surrender and flow. And I keep listening to that Naughty by Nature song, Feel Me Flow. And I keep feeling that way. Like, yeah, I just want to flow. Like, let's try to let go, because that Virgo energy, it is very, it's beautiful energy. And again, signs, they all have their higher and lower expressions, and Virgo in its high expression is super powerful, super, super powerful, very, very spiritual, actually. But in its lower expression, Virgo tends to deviate towards extreme self criticism. And it takes on this kind of sense of guilt and this feeling of being flawed, not being perfect, not being good enough. And it tends to hyper analyze details, and it will ruminate on things from the past and on things that are going on right now. And it kind of like hones in on those little flaws, and just it creates this sense of unsettledness within ourselves, because we're not really, yeah, we're not able to flow. There's like a restriction that comes with it, this feeling that you have to control everything because you're afraid of making a mistake. And that can
Yeah.
even be just on like an unconscious level. And keep in mind, yes, Virgo placements. So yeah, if you have Virgo placements, you're probably feeling this energy. Yeah, yeah. If you have sixth house placements, you're probably feeling this energy. And even then, it's also just like a general vibe that's going on right now. So it's affecting all of us in different ways. And I've talked about that. You can look at your chart to see, if you have anything that's near 12 degrees in your chart, you're likely to feel that energy. If you have Pisces placements, if you have
Yeah.
anything in the mutable signs like Sagittarius or Gemini, like you're likely to feel this. But um, in any case, this eclipse is really offering us a chance for purification, which is the higher expression of Virgo, right? And we're sort of, I think even in my reading that I did, that dragon card, that water dragon, one of the keywords on it was absolution, like absolving ourselves of these things that we've been carrying and kind of like purifying, cleansing that energy. Um,
Yeah. And
Another thing that I heard, go ahead, go ahead.
sorry, I was just it's so I love that you highlighted what you just did. And I'm gonna be a guinea pig and an example here, just to, of my humanness for sure. And that, like, we're always working on our path and doing our spiritual healing. Because I was just talking with Christina before we started recording and saying that the energies caught up with me last Sunday, and I got a little bit triggered over something, and I thought, oh, I don't want to take this out on anybody close to me. Sure, shooting, I did, and by the end of the day, I was just like, oh man, I did it. I took it out on somebody that didn't deserve it. And it's part of the path. It's part of the healing. So, I took a minute and did the talk to myself in the mirror thing for just a minute. And that stuff's powerful. It really is. When you're looking yourself in the eye, there's a lot of power in that, and you're addressing yourself. And I said, okay, all right, I can see I screwed up there. And what did I learn from this? Okay, so I'm going to remember that learning. And the whole goal is just to try not to make the exact same mistake over and over again. I can definitely say I've made the same mistake several times on a bunch of things in life, I can guarantee you. But as we keep going and doing our spiritual healing, eventually we less and less we repeat the same lessons. Instead, we just remember, okay, when I'm feeling the same way, maybe feeling a little bit triggered in the same way, I'm going to remember now, okay, the outcome I had last time is not what I want to repeat. So mirror work is always a helpful little bit. And we don't want to get to the point where we're kind of going into that shame spiral where as we talk about in counseling, where if and when that does happen, and it happens to all of us at some point, we go into feeling shameful about a mistake, what we think is a mistake, something we've done. And all that's doing is, that's just shining a light on, okay, we got to do more healing and get down to the center of those layers of an onion. Emotional healing is so much like the layers of an onion. And in that deepest layer is where shame is held. That's the same for every human. Shame is it's the first bit of wounding that all of us experience when we're little, when we're babies, and we hold that. It's held in our subconscious. So when stuff like this happens, pick yourself up, dust yourself off, talk to yourself in the mirror, say, it's okay. All right. What'd you learn from this? Let's try and remember that going forward. And just know, it's all part of the process. And it does leave us lighter every time once we realize what the lesson was in it. So sorry, a little bit of a side bit there, but I just love that you brought that up. I think it was, um, is it Pluto in Virgo that I have, and that sort of brings that in
Mhm.
particular. It's a generational thing, like you were saying, for somebody to have Pluto in Virgo, and it tends to make us more. It's easier for us to get into that feeling of guilt, right?
Yes. And real quick, I'm just going to note there is a delivery driver here. My dogs are going to start barking.
No
So I'm
worries.
sorry if the microphone picks that up.
No
But
worries.
yeah, Pluto in Virgo, absolutely. Yeah, you come into this life with this feeling of a need for atonement. There's this feeling like you have done something wrong, that you're not good enough, that you have to make up for something that you've done wrong, that there was a horrible mistake made, and you're trying to pay for it in this life. And that is also true if you have Pluto in the sixth house. And there can be other things too that trigger that sort of, energy signature. But yeah, absolutely. And then, in astrology, we always balance energies by going into the opposite sign or house. And so, which is true of Pluto in evolutionary astrology. Pluto's evolutionary trajectory is going to be 180 degrees where it is in your chart. So, if you have Pluto in Virgo, you're looking to evolve into the energy of being in Pisces instead, which is very on par with what we're dealing with right now with this full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo, because we are receiving that balanced energy through the sun being in Pisces, and it's actually conjunct with goddess asteroid Pallas Athena, the goddess of wisdom, at the time of the eclipse. And so we are balancing that Virgo energy with the Pisces energy. And Pisces looks at things holistically rather than honing in on each individual part and, finding the flaws. It looks at the whole picture and it approaches things with compassion and unconditional love, God conscious perspective. And it surrenders, and it loves regardless of what it's looking at. So that's really what you would evolve into as someone with Pluto and Virgo, but it's also what we are all looking to do at this time to balance this energy. We are becoming aware through the energy of that moon, that eclipse in Virgo, of what needs to be released at this time, what has been holding us back, what's been keeping us in a lower frequency. Those things are being highlighted for us, but then we're also being nudged to approach that recognition with the Pisces consciousness of compassion and acceptance and surrender and love. So we can just kind of let it go without judging ourselves, because we all go through these things, because it's all part of our evolution of consciousness. And, so interesting, you were talking about shame being at the core of the unconscious, the root of our wounds. I literally wrote down in my notes that part of what we are doing right now, and the reason why it can feel really heavy at times, is because we are shedding, or we are releasing some very deeply held subconscious beliefs. That's what's coming through this eclipse and the energies right now, especially with Mercury being retrograde in Pisces, which it went retrograde today, and it's going to be retrograde until March 20th. So it's like we are going back over things, and we are having things from the past arise in our conscious awareness. And so if you are going through this and you find yourself suddenly thinking about things, remembering things that you thought you were done with, and you get that kind of feeling of like, oh, not this again. I thought I was done with this. Keep in mind that it doesn't mean that you're not healed, or that you did something wrong or whatever. Those things are coming up because it needs to be looked at one more time before you let it go, because it's part of this synthesis process that we're undergoing.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm so
I,
sorry. I just
mhm.
so glad you said that, because like we were talking about before we started too, it's just like you're describing, there's layers to healing. So that's why we can go through something, think, okay, I've tackled that issue, that specific trigger, whatever it was, I've tackled that, I've healed that. And then, like you just said so beautifully, then we're surprised. It's like, oh, crap, why is this coming up again? But it's just another
Yeah,
layer. It's
yeah,
another layer, it's another octave of healing. And as we go down, as we continue our spiritual healing, I think we tend to, go into higher octaves of more fine attunement on healing all of these layers. Yeah. Yeah. You said
yeah,
that so beautifully. Yeah.
absolutely. Oh, thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And there are things that are so deeply buried. I heard someone mention recently, and I know this is true, and you probably have learned this too through your studies in psychotherapy, but the first 7 years of our life, about uh, everything comes to us through our subconscious mind. Like, we're not consciously integrating anything for the first 7 years of our life, which is interesting because Saturn moves in cycles of 7 years. So we experience our first major Saturn transit at the age of 7 years old. And that is, yeah, everything that you are experiencing as a child up until you're 7 years old is just going directly into your psyche with no filter, and no ability to discern, how do I feel about this? What do I think about this? Is this really mine? And then that stuff, I think I also heard that your subconscious mind is like 90% of your mind, and your conscious mind is only like 10% of your
Yeah.
mind. So
Yeah.
think about, like, again, this is very Piscean energy as well, because you think about the ocean of consciousness and how vast that is. It's like your conscious mind is this little schooner boat, floating on this huge ocean of your subconscious.
Mm.
So you're navigating those waters, but you don't really know what's under the surface until it kind of rises up for you to meet it. And that's what's happening right now. We're having things rise up. And I wanted to say, just in terms of sharing personal stuff, I had this happen last night to me too. And I've been going through waves. Like one day I'm super like high. That's what Ram Dass would say. Like you get so high, like you're so happy and you feel so good, in that spiritual energy. And then the next thing you know, you're feeling the opposite of that. That's part of this energy. So don't be surprised if you are going through those waves. But last night I was like, what was I doing? I was like brushing my teeth or something. Some one of those activities where you don't really think about it and you're just
Yeah.
doing it. And the next thing I know, I realized that I've been having a whole conversation in my head, an imaginary conversation with a family member, and I'm arguing and I'm defending myself.
Yeah.
And I haven't done that in a very long time. And I had this moment of like, whoa, I thought I was done with all of this.
Yeah.
Like, why is this popping up right now? And again, it's exactly that. It's like stuff that you have dealt with. It doesn't mean that you haven't healed. It doesn't mean that you're reverting and you're going back. It's just that you need to look at it one more time. And part of looking at it one more time involves recognizing how far you've come, giving yourself, acknowledgement for the growth that you have done. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Pat on the
You
back
need
for everything that you
you
have done.
you got it.
Yeah.
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 And
Exactly.
yeah. And then to that end, I also went to sleep last night feeling super peaceful, but then my dreams were like, childhood home and family and all kinds of things popping up from my past. And again,
Yeah.
Mercury's retrograde in the sign of Pisces, and this is the eclipse energy. So just don't be
Yeah.
surprised if you have things coming up, resurfacing to be
Yeah.
integrated. And that's really what that is. It's just there to be integrated.
Exactly. Oh, so glad you said that, because that's going to bring a lot of clarity and peace right there to everybody listening. Um, and yeah, I think it's interesting that you described, having the conversation in your head with a family member and kind of defending yourselves, because I have this feeling that coming up, the part of the energies in this lunar eclipse too is our inner critic voice really coming to the forefront. And that's a really big part of emotional healing, is learning how to tame our inner critic. So our inner critic it's the voice that is so often in everybody's minds, a million times a day, so often, like, did I do that right? Oh, I should have done that better. How did I forget that? What am I doing? All those critical voices, we assign it the name inner critic. It's part of our inner emotional world. And it arises from our parents or our guardians, wherever we had critiquing from. And it doesn't mean they were terribly wrong for doing it. It's a part of the growth process. We're always going to have people guiding us and correcting us when we're young, absolutely. But the goal is to get to the point where we can tame that inner critic voice, so we can talk back to it. Once it's like with so many things in spiritual growth, awareness is the first key, and that's the biggest step. So it's so beautiful, because once you're aware of it, like you already are, then we can talk back to it and we can say, okay, thanks very much, that's not helpful right now. You can go have a timeout, inner critic. And it may sound kind of silly, but eventually, it's powerful. And when we can do certain techniques to tame that inner critic, it's a really frees us up in our emotional healing. And there's all sorts of methods of doing that. And I mentioned in one of our last 5DT chats too, I think it was the last one we did, um, for the February 17th annular eclipse. And I was mentioning, oh yeah, train just went off the tracks. There you go. Oh, I
You
know.
were
I was
talking about the
talking.
critic.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
just remembered I was talking about right hand, left hand dialoguing
Oh
as one of
yeah.
the methods for tapping into and conversing with our inner child. Well, we can do that
Mhm.
with different aspects of our inner world, and we can do that with an inner critic. And so that can be another really enlightening tool. And I just want to acknowledge that the woman, the amazing woman that created this process, her name's Lucia Capaccioni. I have several of her books. One of them is called The Power of Your Other Hand. I believe I've got that title right. So I highly
Mhm.
recommend her books. You know, they're older, but boy, it's powerful stuff. It stands the test of time. So, you know, with tackling our inner critic, using that method, the right hand, left hand dialoguing, it just means you put a pen in your dominant hand, ask a question of whatever part of that inner world of ours you want to connect with, whether it's your inner child, whether it's your inner critic. Put the pen in the dominant hand, ask a question like, why are you so hard on me? Say, if we're talking about our inner critic, switch the pen over to your non dominant hand. And it does help you access and go into those deeper layers and into the subconscious, and gives a voice to that entity, that part of ourselves. I won't say entity, that part of ourselves that we want to
Mhm.
dialogue with. And it is absolutely amazing what can come up. It can shed so much light because, like you were saying, so great that you brought that up, that so much of us is held in the subconscious. And that's also a reason why, you know, when everybody talks about manifesting, and sometimes people might get frustrated that they haven't drawn to them what they want to manifest. And one reason can be, I mean, the biggest reason is it's the energy that we hold more than, I mean, affirmations can be beautiful, powerful, and helpful, not taking anything away from them, but using affirmations only, for example, in manifesting, isn't always going to get the job done, because we are driven by what's in our subconscious, and the energy that we hold is the energy that we attract. And I know you've talked about this beautifully before, you know, what the energy that we're vibrating at, the resonance we're at, is what we're going to attract. So sometimes, just a little side shoot there, sometimes that can be the reason why we haven't manifested or brought into our life what we want to. And it just means we're maybe not as ready as we think we are to bring that into our life. And that's a blessing. If it
Right.
comes to us before we're ready, we won't know what to do with it or how to nurture it. And the other
Right.
thing about the subconscious, just really quickly, is that's where our inner child wounds and our inner child healing all lies, is in the subconscious. So again, coming back to what you and I have spoken about before in our other 5DT chats, that healing the inner child is so much a big part of this emotional healing path. And these eclipse energies are there to support us, like you say, in bringing that stuff up to the surface, using, you know, whatever tools work for us. And like you mentioned in the last video too, another beautiful tool is drawing, especially if you get out crayons, because that instantly connects us to our inner child. And especially if you put the crayon in your non-dominant hand, and you just let yourself put down whatever comes out on the paper, it's gonna teach you something. So yeah, just some of those techniques that can help us get through these, well, use these energies that are supporting us to bring up from the subconscious and let go of what doesn't serve us, right?
Right. Yeah. And to that end, I would add, because there is such an emphasis on Pisces energy right now, doing dream work is extremely helpful as well. And holding that energy of surrender once again. And Pisces is also about like surrendering to a higher power, whatever that means for you, whatever language you want to use or however you conceive of that in your paradigm. It is about kind of allowing yourself to receive support through that. So, sometimes like I go to sleep at night and I'll ask a question before I go to sleep. All right. Well, I talk to my guides. So I talk a lot to my guides. I'm very wordy. they're probably tired of my wordiness. But no, I will talk things out before I go to sleep, and then I'll ask for clarity, or I'll ask to understand something better, or I'll ask for help in cutting cords or releasing things that I've been holding on to. And sure enough, I often will have dreams that clarify things for me, or they give me clues as to where I need to go next, or, that kind
Oh,
of thing.
that's
And then again, yeah, like these are all really wonderful tools, but remembering that you don't have to do it all yourself. It's okay. Like that kind of brings us full circle to what we were talking about initially. You know, it's okay to be where you're at, to accept where you're at. It's okay to have things come up again. It's part of your process. Part of this is just accepting that and just loving yourself through it, and kind of approaching yourself with the eyes of a parent toward a child, having that unconditional love for self, and nurturing yourself. But then also remember that you can give things to your guides, however those show up for you. And I did talk in my video, the reading I did, that there's very strong dragon energy right now. So if you're somebody that works with dragons. Yep, yep.
there's a
So
dragon.
beautiful. I love that. I love that. Yeah, I love that. If you're someone that works with dragons, or you want to work with dragons, now's a really good time to connect with them. And I think they're coming through because this is such a huge process of purification, and they're so good at doing that. And really helping us dig into the shadow and go into those deeper, darker, more hidden places. Um, so definitely just know you don't have to, because this is something I do. I kind of get into these places of hyper control. It's like, okay, especially as an astrologer, I'm like, okay, these are the energies and this is the opportunity at hand. So I'm going to really buckle down and I'm going to make sure that I do this, this, and this, and cross this off my list and make sure that I get this. And sometimes my guides come in and they're like, Christina, chill. Like, we got this. You can't do it wrong. You can't do it wrong. Like, you signed up for this. Like, anything that's meant for you is gonna find you. And oh my gosh, I heard that the other day, and oh, it was hilarious because I ate an orange, and I don't usually eat oranges just because I don't have the patience to peel them and deal with them. But I ate an orange, and then I heard this message that later in that day, that anything that is meant for you will find you. Even the piece of fruit that you ate today had to go through a process and travel and make its way to you. I literally heard that.
Oh,
Oh yeah, I ate an orange today.
oh, how beautiful
So
is that, eh? Don't those
yeah,
are the synchronicities that just I got goosebumps. They give us a boost and they're like, "Yep, you're right where you're supposed to be on your path. Bada bing, bada boom. You're right in alignment." That's one of the messages I always take from any kind of synchronicities. That's a beautiful one. I love it.
yeah, yeah. And again, this is a period about alignment, and a big part of what puts us out of alignment is assuming we're out of alignment, you know, kind of like, yeah, looking at things, being hyper focused on the details and the little imperfections, and looking at how bad we're doing, or, how I wish I was here by now. It's like you said, things are going to come to you in the right time. Like, you might not be ready to hold that manifestation yet. And that's why you haven't received it yet. And there are things going on in the subconscious that are influencing your energy signature and impacting what you're able to draw into your reality. And yeah, maybe it would be good to heal those things, to integrate those things, but also know all things in divine timing.
Yeah.
Like, consider what you're trying to manifest. There might be a divine timing coordination going on with that thing. And maybe you're going to come into that state of healing exactly at the time that you need to. And then your manifestation can come in. Like, we can't
Yeah.
see the big picture. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
we don't see that
I
spiritual perspective on things, and
yeah.
all the little things that have to line up to make things happen, that butterfly effect. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I love it. That's so good. And I remember you like speaking of trying to take the 40,000 foot view. Just remind me, is that the Piscean energy? They're trying to get us to take the eagle eye view, the big look at the big picture and take that 40,000 foot view of our lives.
There's actually two different archetypes in astrology that I think speak to that. One is Pisces, because Pisces is a holistic perspective. The other is Sagittarius, because Sagittarius is always aiming high and trying to get the cosmological perspective rather than like the earthly perspective. And it's interesting because both of those signs are ruled by Jupiter. Traditionally, Pisces was ruled by Jupiter before we discovered Neptune. So Jupiter lends its energy to both of those signs. And it is. Jupiter's an expansive, big planet. So it is about taking that expansive perspective on things. Whereas, Mercury would be considered opposite of Jupiter in the sense that it rules Gemini, and then Virgo, right? The opposite of Pisces and Sagittarius. And Mercury is grounded in like physical reality, looking at things with our linear brain and with our eyes here now, what's in front of me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's taking that, but yeah, sorry, that was probably more than you were asking for.
No,
But yeah,
no,
that 40,000 foot view.
no,
Yeah.
that's awesome. I love it. I love it. And and what you were saying too about you know, being our own good parent, and that's such a good point you brought up, because that's such a big part of the emotional healing process in healing our inner child. The goal as we move through that process of healing our inner child wounds is to better develop our inner adult. And our inner adult kind of correlates to our conscious mind, so that would be a Mercury kind of thing. I think could correlate to developing our inner adult, because our inner adult, um, yeah, correlates with our conscious mind, our reasoning mind, and it's our inner adult that does the work, that we want to well develop it well, because that's the part of us that does the important stuff, like make decisions, set boundaries, get our needs met for our inner child. And then our parent, this is a little bit of a, it's kind of a transactional analysis approach to those three levels of inner healing. So the child, like I say, correlating with the subconscious, the adult within us correlating with the conscious mind, and then the parent correlates with the superconscious or the higher self. So when we work on developing our inner adult, making decisions, setting boundaries for our inner child, to keep our inner child safe, to give our inner child, to give ourselves playtime when we need it, because we're still, even as adults, we all need playtime. We all need that outlet where we're free, and whatever that is for us, whether it's, whatever it is, going out mountain biking, or um, painting or drawing, whatever it is, dancing. And yeah, and then the spiritual mind is that inner parent part of ourself. And I would say that might be sort of a Piscean. If I was to guess, I would say Piscean energy would correlate with developing our inner parent, which is, our inner parent is really designed as the to really protect and nurture our inner child. And the more that we can develop, the inner adult and the inner parent, the more we can do that healing work for our inner child. And I mean, when we start, the further we get into that emotional healing process, the more we're in coherence, and the more that we're resonating at a higher vibration, and that all ties into drawing to us what we're at an energetic match for. So it's a little bit maybe of a, sometimes, we hear doing the inner emotional healing or do the shadow work, and it sounds pretty daunting, and it can be challenging work for sure. But there's one of the outgrowths of it is, you start raising your vibration, and then you become an energetic match to that, what you want to manifest in your life. So there's a little bit of an impetus for us to want to do the work maybe there. Besides which, I think it's true that the stuff that's the most challenging in life, the lessons that are the most challenging are what leads to the biggest rewards and the biggest spiritual growth.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's a little bit of a motivator too. It's worth going on the hero's journey and going into the cave, and like we've talked about before, they always say, go into the inner cave and fight the dragon. Well, I would say don't slay the dragon. Once again, love dragons, but go into your subconscious, meet the dragon. And once you do, you come out with the treasures. And then you come out of that cave and you integrate those treasures back into. So, we face the shadow and we accept it and integrate it. And that's a huge part of emotional healing work. But we also realize, hey, there's treasures inside me I didn't even know I had. And then you face
Mhm.
that, you face the dragon, you know, do some shadow healing, but then you find these treasures that have come out of it. And then that's when you go out into the outer world and you can share those gifts with other people. Let's like you do with your astrology. Yeah, because you bring so much wisdom. And then you got the alchemy thing going, which is so cool. And man, alchemy, I think this year of the fire horse, right? We're I think we're supported, I would say, in alchemizing, letting go of and alchemizing lower energies into higher energies. And I'm thinking with this March 3rd full moon lunar eclipse, of course, as you well know, the full moons are always a good time to release culmination, those kind of energies. And I was just thinking the other day that because it's the year of the fire horse, why not use that fire energy too? Because fire is the transmuter, such a powerful transmuter. So if there's stuff that, we want to let go of that no longer serves us, and we want to do it on Tuesday, March 3rd, and take advantage of those energies. I always love the technique of writing down writing down what it is, right? We want to let go of, and then do a little ceremony in the backyard. Just, it doesn't have to be big. It can be quiet and inconspicuous if you need it to be, but just set fire to, in a safe way. Have a nice little whatever metal crucible or something, or on the snow or on the ground or something, but set fire to what you've written out. Say, okay, for example, I'm letting go of getting caught up in perfectionism and the details, because that's one of those energies that this eclipse is allowing us to, supporting us to let go of stuff like that, and just set that sucker on fire and watch it burn. And it's a pretty good feeling when you do that kind of stuff. You can feel it clear. You can feel yourself lighter after you walk away from doing that. Yeah, I would say the energies are supporting us in doing that right now, aren't they? To let go of what we don't need.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And it's funny you say that. I was laughing about it because I
Yeah.
got that same kind of guidance, and actually not just with things you want to let go of, but paying attention to your thoughts. Like, what are the repetitive negative thoughts that keep coming up? And like I said, last night I had that like imaginary argument in my mind, and then I realized I was having it, and I went and wrote it down on a piece of paper. And my intention is to observe those things over the next, week or less than a week until the eclipse. And then, yeah, to burn it,
Oh,
to burn all
oh,
the old thoughts, to kind of release that from your energy. Um,
I
so yeah,
love
there's
it.
that
That's
piece of it.
beautiful.
And yeah, absolutely. Alchemy, another thing that is great for alchemy, especially with Virgo energy, is cleaning. Uh, so doing any kind of cleaning or organizing or decluttering. And again, yesterday, so I had something like that come up as well, something that was a little bit heavier. And I thought, okay, I'm going to do some alchemy. Well, I've had these boxes of broken tiles sitting on my porch for almost a year. Yeah, it is really bad, but it's it's because, and a lot of people that follow me, they know, like, I got divorced this last year. And so it was from the time when I was still living with my husband and we were trying to do work on our house. And so, like, he had installed this new floor over this old tile floor, but broke up all the tiles to like put in the new floor. Anyway, so he did all that work, and it was like my job to get rid of the tiles. Well, they were cumbersome. I didn't know where to take them. So anyway, long story short, they've been sitting on my porch, and it's just been this thing that I'm like, I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
It's fine. They're fine for now. Well, yesterday there was something about it. I was just like, I'm ready to tackle this. So I put on a pair of gloves and I like boxed them up in like little boxes so that I could actually carry them because they're heavy. And yeah, I took them and disposed of them. And I got to tell you, walking across my porch this morning, I'm like, oh, like I can breathe. It feels good. Like you can feel that energy shift. And again, that's a form of alchemy.
Yeah.
And I've literally had that like, where I'm like in kind of a denser frequency, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go clean my shower, or I'm gonna go do the dishes or whatever. That is a very Virgo kind of energy. And by the way, if you have strong Virgo placements in your chart, cleaning and organizing things like that actually helps you to get out of that critical mind and puts you in a state where you can kind of see things more clearly. And yeah, it sort of
Oh,
hushes the inner critic and it kind of brings a sense of order and peace into your consciousness, and it helps you deal with things.
beautiful. Oh, I
But
love
yeah,
it.
so for alchemy, but I also wanted to speak to what you were saying about all the inner child healing and the parenting the inner child and the different levels of consciousness, and specifically going into the cave. And I would say befriending the dragon, maybe not slaying the dragon. Yeah, befriending the dragon, realizing that the dragon is you, and then integrating with that. But yeah, and then finding the hidden treasure. So all of this, and it's so funny because I was thinking to myself, don't forget to talk about Jupiter retrograde. And then you launch into this, what you're saying about this, and that is the Jupiter retrograde thing. So I talked about this in my video on Jupiter retrograde that I did last November because it went retrograde around the 1111 portal. But with Jupiter being in the sign of Cancer, okay, so Jupiter is exalted in the sign of Cancer, and which means it's like a really good place for Jupiter to be. And Jupiter is a very auspicious planet anyway. It tends to bring us blessings and grace and opportunity. So being in its domain, like where it feels really comfy and it likes to be there, it's like it's going to deliver us extra bountiful blessings, right? Well, as it has gone retrograde and through that 1111 portal, which is connected to divine partnership and soulmates and things like that, I talked about this in my video that through its retrograde cycle, it's helping us dig into our root systems, right? Which is Cancer energy. Cancer is like the psychological foundation of yourself. It's the home within yourself. And then through that home, you can also go into like family, and then again, like roots, ancestry, past lives. It's all the things that are imprinted at the deepest levels of who we are that we carry with us that help shape who we are. And again, we were just talking about this, the subconscious. It's dictating what that energy signature is and what you're able to attract, or maybe unwittingly are attracting because you hold that within you at that deep level. And then again, because it's also this like deep hidden level of who you are, you haven't really like plumed the depths of your psyche, which is also your shadow, because your shadow is just what's hidden, right? It's not necessarily all bad. So I talked about this in that video that through Jupiter's retrograde cycle through Cancer, it was going to help us go deep into those parts of ourselves so that, yes, we could heal things that like really need to be healed, that need to be dealt with, and understand where those things come from, but also discover gifts and
Yeah.
things that lay dormant within us that we haven't had the opportunity to really meet at a conscious level, because Jupiter is a magnifier. It brings things up so that we can see them more clearly. So it's been in its retrograde cycle since November 11th. And then it had its big epiphanic moment, I call it, when it moves into opposition with the sun. And that was on
Right.
January 11th. So that was from 1111 to 111. That was a portal.
Right.
Now Jupiter is stationing direct on March 11th. So we go to another 11 date, right? And this is still like within the window of time of the eclipse, right? And it's within the
Yeah.
window of Mercury retrograde. And 2 days before Jupiter stations direct, Mercury is going to form a trine aspect with it. And remember, Mercury is our conscious mind. So everything that Jupiter has been excavating deep within us is then going to communicate very fluidly to our conscious mind. Like, I see now, I understand now what this work has been. And again, like releasing with the eclipse and doing all of this deep subconscious work, again, it can be tricky. There can be heavy things that come up. But ultimately, this is really serving us because, as you said, it's going to change that energy signature that you hold at the deepest level. So even if you've been like consciously trying to manifest for a very long time, but not succeeding, there could be underlying reasons why you haven't been able to do that. And this is really part of the gift, the opportunity that Jupiter is gracing us with. It's allowing us to finally dig up those things that need to be confronted, and then also to discover the things that we haven't been ready to embrace yet, the gifts, the
Yeah.
talents, the untapped resources within us. So when it goes direct on March 11th, all of that is going to be like really coming to the surface.
Yeah.
And there's more. Uh, just a few days after that happens, Three Eye Atlas will come close to Jupiter before it leaves our solar system. And then it's going to be done in our solar system. So I know we haven't
Yeah.
really been talking about Three Eye Atlas because it already made these major connections, and it came close to Earth and it came close to the sun and all of that. The last little like point that it's going to make is it's going to come close to Jupiter before leaving. And it does this while Jupiter is in that stationed energy. And when it's in a stationed energy, meaning that's when it turns direction, so it's moving direct again, that's when Jupiter's energy is extra strong. So again,
Okay.
Jupiter, beneficial, auspicious, gracious planet, gifting us with beautiful things that lie dormant within us at that extra strong energy signature, and then having Three Eye Atlas come close to it at the same time. It's like the cherry on top of the sundae that has
Oh,
been Jupiter's retrograde period. So it
yeah.
really is bringing in alignment. Again, it's this energy of alignment because it's like all the things that are meant for you. That's your soul's mission. That's your purpose. That's what's going to be fulfilling to you. It's joy, it's healing, it's family, it's relationships, it's love, it's money, it's wisdom. It's so many different things, and it's going to be a little bit different for everybody. But that is what's coming through in March, just after this eclipse. So, again, yeah, the Virgo eclipse, I talked about this in my video.
Mhm.
I talked about like needing to let go of something so that
Yeah.
you could open your hand to receive something new.
Right.
That's what's
The
happening.
offering,
We are, yes,
right?
the
The
offering.
offering.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
archetype of the offering. So that's what the eclipse is asking us to let go of something. And then Jupiter and that whole cycle is going to bring in, sorry, bring in something new. That was very like trilling. Yeah, it's going to bring in something new, right? Or lots of new things. And that's part
Yeah.
of that fire horse energy as well, moving into where we're meant to
Yeah.
go, the trajectory that we're
Uh,
headed.
I love it. I love it. It's just so beautiful. It's amazing how it all comes together. And like you say, Jupiter being a benefic and leading us March 11th to some of those epiphanies of getting the light shone on yeah, well, here's some of the gold, here's some of the treasure within you that you may not have seen yet, and or epiphanies in our emotional healing that just finally drop in. And like you say, it's always divine right timing. And that's interesting. Yeah, I was realizing that the other day as well, that Three Eye Atlas is making its last round before going out of our solar system. And I mean, there's a lot of different opinions and so on out there about Three Eye Atlas, but I've kind of landed on the feeling that resonates with me is a benefic one, that it's a good energy that has been passing through our neighborhood. And I absolutely think it's the first of many. I think there's a lot more. I think
Mm,
whatever you want to call it, ET, other dimensional contact, I think it's right around the corner. We're going to be
yeah.
experiencing that before long. And I think it's going to be a beautiful thing. I think there might be, I know there's technologies out there that might still be activated that want to trick us, whether it's blue beam technology, whatever. But I do think there's also a a benefit, a good energy out there that is coming to closer and is going to be, contacting us, and that's all part of the overall, if you do the 40,000-foot view, the overall part of the healing journey and the awakening process, the ascension process that humans are on, is eventually to step into and join our galactic family on a higher level. Anyways, that can be a talk for another 5DT. I think we could talk a lot about that one. So I'll just cover the surface of it.
Well, and just to the, just to speak to the three eye atlas bit, because we're talking about it and it is connected to Jupiter and all that jazz. I, when it came up as a subject, and there was a lot of chatter about it, of course, I went straight to the source for the information, which is within myself. And I did my own reading on it and I did my own meditation on it and talked to my guides about it. So again, whoever is listening, you have to listen to your own discernment. Don't take my word for it. But this is how I came to my conclusion about it. And I got this very clear message that it was been beneficial, that it was something that was positive, and also that it held this very deeply feminine energy. And feminine meaning that it was going to be helping us by bringing up the shadow. And helping to kind of excavate that because there is so much shadow work that needs to be done collectively in order for us to fully step into the light. And it was offering some assistance in doing that. And so, yeah, I have felt that way. But of course, anytime there's anything that is anything, but like whether it's neutral or whether it's beneficial, there's going to be a hijack. There's going to be this, whatever force that steps in to manipulate and twist it and use it for whatever. And that's even true if you look at things on like a 3D level. We see that all the time where we have new technologies or things that are supposed to be meant as a beneficial thing that are used. And then we have hucksters and tricksters and and grifters that step in, scammers that step in, and they twist those things and they use them for like selfish or nefarious means or whatever. Like that's just an echo of that same energy, right? Like of something that's happening on a more cosmological scale or just a collective scale. You have something that's beneficial and then it gets twisted and warped to fit an agenda or to fit a certain perception. And again,
Yeah.
yeah, and you're totally right. We could talk about this as its own thing, but yeah, just to alter the no, nope, because I wrote this down as something I wanted to talk about today, so it's coming up for a reason. The
Right on.
observer effect,
Oh
right?
yeah.
I wanted, yeah, I wanted to talk today about the observer effect because it's part of this Mercury retrograde energy. And now here it is coming up again. But I keep having this come into my consciousness and through like lots of different metaphors, like a watched pot never boils, or you always find love when you stop looking for it, things like that. It's so true. It's like what you are observing is influenced by your observation, and the the beings, the people, the groups, or whatever you want to call it, that have an understanding of this use that to their advantage in trying to control narratives and the manifestation of timelines. And that's why it's super important. And this will come up more as we look at Uranus moving into Gemini at the end of April. But it's it's so important. Again, we were talking about self-awareness. This is another facet of self-awareness, is recognizing where you're putting your energy and where you're putting your focus. Because I think we know this. It's something that we know as spiritual people. We've all heard this through the law of attraction and we've learned about this, right? But I think we still, like in practice and in reality, underestimate the power that we really do have. and the impact that it really does have. And I think part of that is because there is this delay between what happens in that higher dimension, the hyperdimensional realms versus what gets manifested in the 3D. So because we're not
Yeah.
seeing the immediate cause and effect, it doesn't always register,
Yeah.
hey, you made that happen. You
Yeah.
created that. That was you. And that can be a really beautiful thing, but of course, it can also go the other way. And so those who are trying to manipulate timelines will try to ensnare consciousness at collective levels. If you can get massive groups of people to focus on the same thing and then generate an emotional signature about that thing,
Yeah.
right? So again, and again, we
Yeah.
can go into that, but with Three Eye Atlas, I think it was a similar thing where it was like, here's this beautiful,
Yes.
beneficial, yeah, body, beautiful,
Yeah.
beneficial body coming into our solar system to help us. And it's like immediately you see all these like scare tactics and
Yeah.
these, fear mongering
Yeah.
things that pop up in headlines. And again,
Yeah.
it's like, where are you gonna, and at the end of the day, it comes down to your individual discernment. And so what you were just saying, blue beam or whatever kind of technology comes forward in the future, it's again, this was part of that lesson of having Saturn move through Pisces, teaching us spiritual discernment, because we need to be able to do that as the lessons get upgraded, so to speak. The
Yeah.
tests get a little bit harder, or
Yeah.
not even just harder, like just trickier,
Yeah.
like it gets a
Yeah.
little bit more difficult. Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, it's such a good point. I'm glad you shared that because yeah, it's such a part of the journey we're on is developing our discernment. Absolutely. And yeah, and like you say, I mean, we've been living in a world of polarity for so long, and the controllers have totally, use that polarity to divide and conquer. And also, like you just said, and I know we touched on it in our last video too, is that the controllers, as powerful as they have been, that power is waning more and more day by day. But as powerful as they have been in the past, they do not have the ability to create because they've severed themselves from the divine, and the divine is creation. The source
Yeah.
divine is creation, and they haven't been able to do that. And that's part of why they've so wanted to suppress and denigrate and hold down the divine feminine, because that's the piece
Mm-hmm.
of creation right there. Yeah. But it's so interesting too as we move forward, because, and this as the gifted astrologer that you are, that the energies are just not supporting them to be able to pull this stuff off anymore. The controllers, it's just, as we move further and further into the age of Aquarius, there just isn't that support for underhanded control, things being hidden. Everything's coming up into the light. And again, that's the process that we're all moving through on an individual level internally, having the everything come up into the light, being able to see our shadow and be able to integrate it, accept it, and integrate it back into us. And the exact same thing is being mirrored in the external world. Everything that's not
Mm-hmm.
built on a foundation of the Aquarian energies we're moving into, of love, compassion, transparency, truth, it
Mm-hmm.
just isn't going to be supported anymore. And I always, I find a lot of comfort in knowing that's a universal truth. That's, doesn't matter how much power they've had, they can't fight the universal truths. That's, we're getting goosebumps. So spirit's going, yep. Yeah, it's like, yeah, we're the more we rise up and we do our work and we stand in our sovereignty. And gosh, that word always has to be one of the words that our show is brought to you by. So I'm going to add surrender, flow, sovereignty, alignment, always there. But boy, the more we do our healing work and we stand in our spiritual sovereignty, our mental sovereignty, our physical, our emotional sovereignty, then the more we are standing in our power, and we're so supported by that in the energies that
Yeah.
we're moving through right now. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking maybe we'll stop, we'll wind it up pretty soon, but I would love anything that you want to remind us of to keep as far as the energies that we're moving through coming up to March 3rd with the eclipse? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So once again, Mercury is retrograde. So typical Mercury retrograde guidance is don't push, don't rush, don't force. Let yourself slow down and be present. When you do experience the typical, technological malfunctions or whatever, Mercury retrograde antics, it's there to remind you to slow down and to be present and to pause what you're doing. And actually, just a really funny anecdote, real quick. That Virgo eclipse video that I just did. So that was done like 1 or 2 days before Mercury turned retrograde. I always, record my video and then I edit it really quickly. I don't really do much editing, but I need to make sure, yeah, that I do a little bit. And then and then it takes uh like an hour almost to export the video after I've edited it. So I'll spend like less than 5 minutes editing, and then it takes like an hour to export. Well, I was really hungry. I was like, I want to go eat, but I want to get this started. So I just popped on my computer. I'm like, I'm just gonna do this real quick. So do, and I just like did my quick little edit thing, and then bam, export. Okay, I'm gonna go eat. So I just like spent an hour. I came back, and then it's like, okay, it's time to watch it, make sure that it's okay. And right when I hit play, there's like 10 seconds of just black silence. And I'm like, what? And then I click ahead and see, oh no, the video's fine. When I did my rushed editing process, I didn't realize that I hadn't like lined it up properly. And that's technical stuff. But the bottom line is, and the lesson is that I tried to rush through something. I tried to push through. Sorry, my dogs are barking. Rather than slowing down, taking my time, double checking, making sure everything was right, which is Mercury retrograde energy. That's exactly what it wants you to do. And so, thus, you know, yeah, I hoisted myself by my own petard, I guess, if that's the right expression. Um, but no, I ended up dealing with, yeah, having to re-edit it. I had to go back over and do the whole thing and wait another hour anyway. So
Yeah.
I hope that's not too loud, the barking that's going on
Oh,
in the
it's
background.
fine. No worries.
Okay.
I love that
Okay.
you shared that. I totally love that you shared that because it's such a good reminder. I needed to hear that. I know because it's, I get, we hear about how, yeah, Mercury is about review, renew, you go over all the re's, and but it's so easy to still stay in that rush, gotta do this, gotta do that. And oh, Mercury retrograde, gotta review, gotta review. But meanwhile, we're still in this hyper, fast paced. And it's such a good point you made to just stop, take the time, and yeah, let go of perfectionism. Tell the inner critic to be quiet for a while, stop and review what we feel we need to review in our life, and definitely always I would say remember, all of us remember to, as more chaos is going to come out in the outer world, so important to come back to our center, do some heart-centered breathing. Just put your hands on your heart, and you can picture the breath coming in and out through the heart. It's one of the best, fastest ways to get us out of a racing mind and back into our body, because getting back into our body is what brings us back to center. Or candle gazing, whatever works for us. If you're in an area that doesn't have 2.5 feet of snow like we do here in Canada right now, put your bare feet on the ground. I won't be doing
Uh,
that for a few months, that's for sure. But yeah, whatever works for you. Beautiful souls that are watching this, take good care of yourself, take the time. And I am so grateful, Christina. Thank you so much for bringing your beautiful astrology wisdom and spiritual wisdom to share with us again. And please, just before we sign off, tell people where they can get hold of you and get an astrology reading, and check out your awesome YouTube videos.
yeah. So Zenith Glow Astrology on YouTube, and I think that you'll have the link to that in your description
Yeah.
box, right? And vice versa. If anyone wants to find Jacqueline Middleton coaching, I'm going to post her links in my description box on my channel. And then, yeah, if you want to book a reading, if you just go to zenithglowastrology.com, you can do it directly on my website there. And then if you have any questions, you can also send me a message. I respond to people. I'm very responsive and I'm pretty quick with my turnaround time too. But you can reach me at zenithglowastrology@gmail.com.
Oh, I love it. Beautiful. Awesome. Thank you so, so much, Christina. And thank you to everybody watching today. And Christina and I would so appreciate it if you've enjoyed even a couple little nuggets of wisdom out of this. If you want to give us both a like and a subscribe, Jacqueline Milton Coaching Channel on YouTube and Zenith Glow Astrology for Christina. We would so appreciate a like. And if you want to share it with somebody who you think could benefit from some of the messages that we talked about today, please go ahead and share it. Thank you so much, everybody. Wishing you a wonderful and illuminating full moon lunar eclipse on March 3rd. Take care, everybody. Have a good day.